What's up, everybody? This is the episode all about books. That's right, not the book of the week, but we talked to two of my favorite authors. On the docket today, we have the splatterpunk god himself, Mr. Aron Beauregard. And we also have the lovely Miss Dawn Shea, who is the owner of D&T Publishing and also writes classic short stories. I can't wait for this episode. I love to read. I love the books. I love the authors. I'm super excited. Let's get into it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dave.
And this is Brandon.
And this is Joshua. And you are now listening to PVD Horror.
And you are now listening to PVD Horror.
I wrote those words, and I have no recollection of doing it.
You really don't realize what you're like when you write those books, do you? It's like watching Jekyll turn into Hyde.
Hi, this is Georgina Jane. I'm a film actress known for Cupid, Don't Speak, and soon to be released Cannibal Troll. And you are tuning into PVD Horror.
All right, so we're sitting with one of my favorite authors of all time, Mr. Aron Beauregard today, writers of such fine books as Scary Bastard, Try the New Candy, and Yellow. So welcome aboard, Aron.
Yo, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a little while. I know I got to come on for another appearance earlier. Been keeping up with the show. It's great. I hope you guys get to doing live events again soon, because those were a fucking blast.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
Oh, Josh, did you want me to start recording?
What? Yes.
I'm just kidding with you.
You're fucking with me today, Dave.
So,
any more movies ever?
Oh, come on, Josh. I apologize. Never mind. I'm all done making fun of you.
Oh, I went to Dave's
movies.
house, and Dave lives in this really nice suburban area, and I fucking parked on the street. As soon as I got out of the car, everybody was in the window looking out and shit. Like, I had to run, and you're right next to Woonsocket. Like, what's up with that, dude?
That's why I'm always over there. So you guys make fun of me.
So anyway, let's get right into this.
All right, Aron. Hey, so I want to ask you just kind of like some introductory questions so people can get to know you a little bit. But I thought maybe we could just start off with you letting us know kind of what got you into writing.
Yeah, I think I'd always been sort of into writing since I was young, and I mean, I know Josh, I've talked to you about like sort of like the Goosebumps, the scary stories to tell in the dark, those sort of fun, spooky children's books. I don't know why. I just always kind of drawn to the macabre and the, probably for the same reason you guys are drawn to horror movies, because I'm the same, that's my top go-to.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. You got some, Josh is showing a few classics up there from the bargain book bin. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Josh still hasn't figured out that this is an audio podcast and not a visual.
Well, that's why I had to state that out loud.
I know. I appreciate it. A true veteran right there. A true veteran.
But it definitely started with those younger sort of scary story type of things. And I wrote some when I was young. I think in like my Amazon author bio, I talk about like a story, Zombie Child, that I wrote when I was like a little kid. And it was like very, like, for whatever reason, my head just went to very adult content when I was young, even, and like when somebody actually got killed in like one of the Fear Street books, like that didn't happen a lot. And so I'd be like fucking stoked when someone actually got killed in the books, because they were usually for teens, and it was sort of, not rampant in the genre. But yeah, it kind of started with that. And then I think like I was definitely inspired by some horror movies too. I think my uncle showed me Pet Sematary when I was really young, which it's incredibly scary. I don't have kids, but I've also heard people say, like if you watch it after you have kids too, it's even more terrifying, I guess. But I saw it at a young age, and I was kind of blown away by it. And for a while, I just sort of wrote little things here and there. but never really understood the world of like how to publish a book or anything like that. And, at that age, a lot of that stuff wasn't really accessible anyway. So I got into music for a while after that, and I was doing a lot of stuff with music. And sort of when the band stuff was over, I went back in, and actually I started writing screenplays, was where I jumped back into. And I wrote a pretty nice little thriller called Two Birds with a writing partner of mine, who was a really cool guy, but I think he was a little bit more into, like writing dramas and stuff. And I kind of nudged him into horror. So I kind of felt bad about it. Eventually we sort of went our separate ways. And, I started writing my first novella, Die Tommy, probably, I think it was like 4 years ago. So it was very sporadic for a while. And then once I actually finished something and I sort of figured out the process, it was just lights out from there. And now I'm about to release my 10th book. So.
Jeez, that's awesome.
That's pretty impressive. Just kind of keep going and going like that. So let me ask you, as somebody who writes, but you're also a big fan of horror films, can you let us know what some of your favorite horror movie adaptations are? Oh man. Well, I think kind of starting off with Pet Sematary, probably that one. I mean, that was an incredible adaptation. I also actually do like American Psycho, despite that. A lot of people see it more as a literature book. Yeah. I think that book's about as splatterpunk as you can get. Yeah, I love that book. Yeah.
That book is insane, dude. And while some of the stuff was way too extreme to make the screen, I still thought they did a pretty good job just with the aura and the setting, like, that 80s excess and obviously Christian Bale's breakout role. So I would probably tend to point to that one because I was kind of obsessed with that one for some time.
Yeah, I will say actually with that author Bret Easton Ellis, I think that American Psycho is probably the best adaptation of any of his books. I'm not sure if you've read some of the other works, but they've always struggled kind of adapting his books anyway. So I definitely agree that was a pretty well made one.
Yeah, like probably like Rules of Attraction, Less Than Zero.
The Informers was a pretty terrible movie.
Oh man, did you guys watch the Smiley Face Killers yet?
Not yet. I just got it on my list.
It's rough, dude. And it's like, that wasn't even an adaptation. He wrote that for the screen. And I was like very excited. And actually, I'm not going to spoil anything because I know we don't give out spoilers probably on your show, but I'd say about the last 30 minutes of the movie, like some really cool shit happens. But I just can't even believe that I kept it on that long. It was, you know what I mean? It was so bad. Everything else, I thought.
Yeah. But I feel like he's notorious for making movies where it feels like the cast are all people he wants to sleep with. So I'm not even being an asshole. I think that's kind of a thing with him. But yeah, it's on my list. I am going to check it out.
Good luck.
Now, outside of horror, what is your favorite genre to read and why?
Oh, I think close second for me would be probably crime. Like I'm talking like real gritty street crime. Like, I don't know if you ever read Iceberg Slim, Pimp, shit like that. Yeah. Just like real gangster shit. And that's kind of like was the inspiration, like in somewhat like those kind of vibes, like Death Wish, gritty urban crime stuff. For Yellow, like I tried to, because I wanted to write something that was more crime oriented. Mm-hmm. So that was like a cool blend of like crime, noir, and revenge and horror kind of bundled into one. But yeah, I love those old gangster movies, man. I grew up listening to all fucking hip hop and Menace to Society, all that stuff, dude. It's just so raw, and it's that stuff is disturbing, dude. Like the first time you see it, especially if you're at a young age, incredibly disturbing.
Yeah, it's crazy because, like for me, it's like, it's hard for me to get into books. And then like the main type of genre of books I like to read is, like you said, crime. And I like cartel books, and that just keeps me like turning that page. And it's like, it's so hard for me to get into like certain books, man.
You're not the only one. I think it's kind of, it part of it is just people's personality. And I think maybe some of it is just attention span and sort of the way society's evolved, So it's a bit of a lost art, but that even myself, I'm not I think Josh reads way fucking more than me, you know, but part of it is because I'm actually doing I'd rather be writing. Also, like you, I feel like when I get a crime book, especially true crime too, man, that shit is just fascinating to me. And you guys know I do the Evil Examine podcast, so I really like bizarre, disturbing sort of crimes that, the lesser known the better, because there's so much stuff that is just overdone. But I love it.
Now, do you like audiobooks, physical books, or ebooks? What do you like better?
I would probably go for convenience, audiobook is great. Yeah. I think, and that's a good avenue to get people that have that, where they don't really have the attention span to do it, to sort of absorb the story and still not really miss anything. But I just love paperbacks, man. I love a big part of it too is like the artwork. If you notice in my books, I have a lot of artwork in my books because I'm a huge advocate for just horror art in general. And I like the stuff that, I do appreciate when people do like adaptations of movies and stuff and really cool art, but I just love the original stuff, just the fucked up things that come out of people's minds. And as an author, it's really fun because, I sit there and I write I don't know how other people do it, but I write very detailed descriptions of what I want to really paint the picture for the artist. And man, it's just so cool when that artwork is unveiled and you finally get to see it.
Yeah, that was another thing too I was going to throw out there, man. I love all the detail that you put into all the cover art. So out of all your books, what book is your favorite that you have, the cover art that stands out to you?
Oh man, for cover art, the Slob is a pretty iconic one, and it's super gross with sort of the surroundings. In my mind, it's iconic. I mean, a few thousand people have read it. I'm not trying to soup myself up. That's about it. But I like that one a lot. And I really do like the one for Yellow, even though it's not, I tend to like pretty violent stuff if it has something to do with the story. Yellow is more basic kind of, and it just kind of looks like an old detective novel that you might pick up. And I even put the little 15 cent, in the corner of it to kind of give it the nostalgia. So I really like that one too. But
yeah, because even with films, we always talk about it, when you see cover art, when we back in the day, when we go to the video store, that always stood out to me. All right, this looks pretty cool. And so it's the same thing with books. When I see that, I'm like, all right, yeah, I want to check this out. This seems like it will be pretty cool to read because the illustration and everything like that. Now, do you draw your own cover art, or do you have someone that does that?
I work with a series of different artists. A lot of my covers are done by this dude, Anton Rozovsky from Russia. That I have a good relationship with. And, we always kind of just I take care of him. He'll charge less and I'll always give him more because I know what that dude's worth. And I want to build that relationship with him. And it's been great. He's done, actually to date, he'll have done 9 of my 10 covers. I do have one book in waiting that's done. But that's going to be with the horror oil painter, Zach Dunn, one of his paintings. And that guy's fucking incredible. But to your point with the video store stuff, totally agree. Anybody that says don't judge a book by its cover, they're just lying to themselves. That's what everybody does, Now
you said that your books, you had 1,000 readers. How do you handle negative reviews and social media comments on something that you put so much work into?
Well, I've been pretty fortunate to not get a ton of negative reviews. A lot of the reviews that I've seen that have been negative will just be 1 star, no comments. Yeah. And I'm okay, I think I might have triggered someone probably with that, because I put a lot of work into my books and maybe they did think it was 1 star. That's possible. But I think more than likely, a lot of times when you see that, it might be somebody got offended. Because society is a bit sensitive sort of to, it's hypersensitive right now, I think, as we continue to evolve. And unfortunately, the genre I'm in kind of, snubs its nose at that sort of stuff. But I have had, I always kind of try to take the high road. I don't really, if it's a personal attack, I just won't respond to it at all. Yeah. If it's someone that actually critiqued it and they were just you know, oh, like I thought this was good, but this part wasn't really for me. You know what I mean? Then I'll just, if I see that, I'll be like, oh man, like, you know, I really appreciate you checking out the book. Sorry that that one wasn't for you. You know, maybe something down the future. Like if you're just being an asshole and saying like, oh, this guy's full of hatred, he's a piece of shit, whatever it might be. But I've had people reach out to me like on Messenger and just be like, well, it was one person really that this happened with, but he was just like, oh, you know, like I just can't get into it. And I was like, it's all right, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's no problem. I appreciate you trying it. And then I just offered him a refund and I said, I'll give you a refund. It's like, no problem, dude. I'll do that too. You know, like if somebody really feels like they're just not going to have any use for the book, it's no big deal. I'd rather just keep a good presence up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, if you had the opportunity to stay at a famous horror movie location while writing a book, where would you choose?
Oh man, dude, I'd probably go Bates Motel. I think that's a great one just because I like, I'm a big fan of isolation in horror movies. You know, like if you can like have just a handful of characters, I feel like you get more into those characters. And if they're in isolation, like, oh man, I fucking just hate shit sometimes when there's cell phones everywhere. And it's like, man, I want you to have to dial out on a fucking rotary, you know, or like they cut the phone lines. Like you got no option, you know, and sometimes I'll set my stories. Like I'm doing a piece right now that's set in the early 60s. So I have to do all this research kind of about the era and the times, but I wanted it to be then because I wanted to do something, just get away from all that, you know, and just go back to even though it's in a suburban neighborhood, there's still a feeling of isolation because the communication is cut in a sense, you know?
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about your books themselves. Like you said, I'm a huge reader and I do audiobooks and I love hard copy book. I can't do online shit. And if I do audiobooks, sometimes I like to read along, which is pretty entertaining. And when you were talking about some of your stuff is really graphic and you trigger people, you have to talk about first off, the Honduras story. But Dark Assembly in general was such a triggering book. I need to hear from you, like how bad that is without spoiling it, because I will spoil everything.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one, dude. Honestly, like that. But that was the purpose of that book. You know, I don't. Most of my books, I don't outright say, "Oh, this is going to be like a descent into depravity to test your limits." You know what I mean? It's just whatever the story is, and a lot of them will test your limits still. But that's not sort of what it's designed. Like with Dark Assembly, I pretty much designed that collection to say, "Dude, let's see how far we can go." You know, with some of it, but I never do it at the expense of the story. You know what I mean? Like the violence or the subject matter is always to drive the story forward. It's not at the expense of the characters or anything like that. But yeah, the last story in that book, it's funny too, because I was in the process of getting an editor when I wrote that book. And I put that story as the last story, because I was afraid that the editor would bail out on editing it. But I was like, well, if she already fucking edited all the stories, she's not going to renege on the deal at the end. You know what I mean? So, but she was fucking hardcore. She was like, this was great. Like, I was like,
that's awesome.
Like, holy shit. But yeah, that one deals with, actually the Honduras story in particular is, I kind of got the concept and loosely based it off of this, sort of sadistic international pedophile named Peter Scully, who created these snuff films that involved children. And there was a real snuff film. Like some people don't think that stuff exists. I wouldn't Google that shit too hard because it's not anything that you want showing up in your history probably, but they did, like, there are some like popular reports on it. You know, I think like 48 Hours might have done a piece on it, and there was also a podcast on it. I can't remember who did it, but essentially a child snuff film is what this guy was creating. And that's sort of the premise of that story. And it goes into some highly uncomfortable scenes in it. And this is a reason when I talk about censorship, like this is a great sort of question, Josh, because I had somebody reach out to me that had gone through traumatic things, you know, in their childhood and that read this collection. And they said population controls, you know, I think that's the best story in the book. And then they said, but my favorite story is Last Days in Honduras because of who I am. And I think that should be a fucking note to everybody who's wanting to cut something down, you know, it's not your decision to decide for somebody else, you know, like somebody who's even had a traumatic experience reads the triggers on the book and decides to read it still, they can actually, you know, give you a positive feedback on it. And so like I try to use that to talk, because there's a lot of shit with censorship right now with like Amazon just pulling people's books because shit's too hardcore and they don't want to be associated with it. And it's like all it takes potentially is one person, you know, going off about it. But yeah, I mean, overall, Josh, the reviews on that book are highly positive. People like it. They like the sort of variety in it. And yeah, there's definitely a little bit of everything. Like you said, any sort of trigger is probably in that book somewhere.
Yeah, I got to give you personal props because, you know, I've gone through some stuff in my life, and I'll just leave it there. But at that particular story, it's all about the karma. So I absolutely love that book. So I can completely see where everyone else is coming from with that. So extremely well written. So nice job on that one. And it is like, it's a really touchy subject, you know, and
yeah, it's not something I delved into all the time, but it, like, for that book, it made sense because, you know what I mean? That was sort of the purpose of the book, was just to kind of go fucking crazy and do something that I don't say that, I use the term no boundaries. Like I do writing with no boundaries. You know what I mean? And I think there's plenty of warning associated with that book. Like if you look at the cover, there's a guy with his dick ripped off on the cover. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're sensitive, you may want to stay away from this one. I don't think you even have to read the warning, but you know.
So then I did want to ask you about my favorite book. It started with the short story, The Donor, and Try the New Candy, and then went to Scary Bastard. And Scary Bastard is probably my favorite book of yours. So I just want to know, how did it feel taking the short story and making a complete, like, not a novel, but a novella of that particular character?
Man, it was awesome. It's such a fun character to write that when I went back and recently like edited, and you saw, I think I gave you a copy of the new one, right?
Yeah, I actually have it right here. I haven't delved into it yet. I reread the first one. I read that one twice, but I haven't read the remake or the revamped edition yet. So it's on my read list.
There's a couple of bonus chapters in there. One is called Rough House, and it's pretty awesome. I think you'll appreciate it. But I think when I was revamping the book and I added a couple chapters and did the new artwork and the cover and everything, I was like, man, I really miss writing this character. Like, it's just awesome. It's fun. It's fun to write the character of Edmund Black, who's kind of like the slasher that I created. And to answer your question, yeah, it started with like The Donor, which is sort of when Edmund Black is like young. And I don't want to give too much away, but like the book picks up when he's like in an asylum, like years after this horrific event of this that happens in the story, The Donor. And I've written 3 chapters so far in Scary Bastard 2, but I kind of had to put it on hold to finish some other stuff. But you could tell the way that book ended, it's sort of like an opening, you know?
Oh, that's pretty sweet. And then, so I did want to talk, I love Yellow, by the way. I'm a huge Charles Bronson fan, and right in the first sentence, the dedication to Charles Bronson and Death Wish, you had me from there. Dude, I devoured that book in like I think a day. What made you come up, and it takes Death Wish and really twist it. Like that was a really morbid Death Wish book.
Yeah.
I gotta say, man, and I was like, how the hell do you come up with this shit?
Well, I love like you, dude. I love Death Wish. I love all of those movies. The remakes, whatever. You know, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. But the those originals, man, they're just tremendous and just good fun. You know, like you can they have great rewatchability. And I was like, I've always wanted to do. I love revenge, especially like horror movie revenge movies. They're just amazing. And that one was more action oriented. So I wanted to do something that was a lot darker than that. And you notice like Charles Bronson, he's sort of a fucking tough guy in every movie he's in. You know, like a lot of revenge movies will have sort of a strong male character or somewhat strong male character. And I kind of wanted to do something with somebody more like downtrodden and just sort of beat down by life. And as you know, like just the events that just keep weighing down on him throughout the first quarter of the book that pushes him to snap. And then also like the love story angle in it that is so twisted. I think that was maybe one of my favorite aspects of the book too. And like writing it is really fun. And I wish I could say more about that part because it's fun to talk about, but I think it kind of gives too much away. But
yeah, it's funny. I like as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my God, I could be this guy, you know? It was pretty fucking twisted. And so the next book I wanted to talk about was apparently your most famous book is The Slob. And if I know you were nominated for what was the Splatterpunk Award, and I think it was that
Yes.
book, if I was correct, right?
Yep, you got it.
And it seems like everybody talks about that particular book. Every time your name comes up, that book is associated with it. So yeah, I gotta ask, how's that feel that your book is so fucking popular?
It's an awesome feeling, dude. And like it's something that I never honestly expected to happen, you know, like it just sort of blew up. You know, like a few people read it and it went through some different like Facebook book groups. And it sort of became like this challenge. Like, can you read this book? Like this book is fucking repulsive and like disgusting. And it, you know, like I got a lot of reviews on that one where people say it physically altered me. Like when I was reading it, like I was gagging, and that's the ultimate compliment. Like I recently had someone told me they cried at the end of Yellow. Like when you can evoke an emotional response, whether it be positive or negative, I think you're doing your job. You're hitting a nerve and you're connecting with the reader. And that one, I think also that one deals with the topic of like hoarding too, you know, and like there's a lot of people that are, you know, affected by that. And I think more than I imagined, you know, people grew up in a real dirty household and they were like, man, I really like relate to this. Let me see how it parallels my experience sort of, you know what I mean? Or if it does. And then from there, they connect with it. And I think lastly, I'll say that the main character in the book, Vera, I mean, that really taught me a lot about character connection in that book. Because all the reviews that you see, like, well, I'm not gonna say all of them, but there's a lot of reviews that you see in that book, on that book rather, that specifically talk about the character and how they couldn't put it down because they were rooting for this character to come out because of her circumstance and what kind of person she was. And I was actually worried at the beginning of the book that it might be a little bit slow for some horror readers, but that's not the case. You know, sometimes you worry if there's a few chapters without any like true action and you're sort of going through what these people are about, but really they just start to attach to the character and relate to it. And then when you fucking tear that character apart, it destroys them, you know?
Yeah, dude. And then the other big book that I wanted to talk to you about was Hallucinations. The like every single story it's not even like it's not even splatterpunk. It was more like what do they call that? Bizarro fiction.
Yeah, I think so.
Like,
I would agree.
It was. I'm reading it and I'm like, I was having a flashback while I was reading. Like, what a fucked up book, dude. But and I don't know if you've gotten this before, but it really shows how good you are as a writer, because you've stepped away from the splatterpunk for most of it and really went into a different realm here. And I guess the question there is how was it making that transition from splatterpunk into the bizarro and then coming back?
Oh man, it was fun. And I think actually the reason I wrote that book was because I had a real bad trip, like an incredibly scary, bad trip that went horribly wrong. And really that book is like, the story Making Room in the Birdhouse, that the one in there, like I'm actually the character in that. I never say my name in it. I only say the name of the other two people I was tripping with. And actually the pictures are illustrations of who that's them. And the trippiness, like the eyeballs and the fucking squid face, all that stuff is just like how I saw them. And I conveyed that to the artist and sort of put it in there. But I think I was after having such a otherworldly experience, I was just like, man, I need to write something where, it's not so grounded, and I can go and veer off into different directions. And, that's the thing. Like I don't know if you guys have ever fucking tripped, but it's just like, there's things that you're going to see and experience that there's almost no way to put into words. So I was like, well, let me challenge myself, let me try and put those into words. And I sort of marketed that book like, oh, like if you've never tripped before, check this out. And you could kind of have an idea to some extent of what that experience could be like,
Yeah. Are you well-versed in the tripping?
I mean, I've probably had about 40, 50 trips lifetime, so I would say decent, but up until recently, before I wrote that book, I had never had one that was like, I'd had real good ones, just like awesome ones that were scary and stuff. But I mean, this was just some next level shit, dude. Like you just lose. I was not in control of myself. You know what I mean? For certain parts of it. And it was just a different way of looking at things. And I feel like I feel like you always learn something when you do those kind of trips. And that's the story Awful Things too. That was a lot about that particular trip, like sort of when the woman gets pulled up from the bridge into the universe and shit. All that stuff too is kind of part of it.
I love those trips. Yeah. You know what I don't like? I don't like crack. That's the only thing I don't like. You stand under your skin for like ever and fuck. Oh, I hate fucking crack. Yeah. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. No problem.
You're so old-fashioned, Josh.
Wait a minute here. But I've been clean for a long time. I can't do that shit now. I'll probably fucking die. But man, I used to love tripping.
It's awesome, dude. But it's also pretty scary at times. It depends.
Oh yeah.
You never know what you're gonna get from it. It's not like you bought it at Walmart.
Yeah. So I wanted to thank you for coming on before. I'd like you to come on again, hopefully in the future, especially when your new books come out. I'd like to do a little book of the week with you. I really I appreciate that. And thanks you've given me like tons of books through the years here. So I really appreciate that. And I post them up because I like them. I love your work. So it's pretty cool. Like, thank God your books don't suck. When you first gave me Try the New Candy, I was like, oh, I'm like, if this book sucks, then I got to tell them it sucks. So I'm glad it was good. And I've been lucky, like a lot of people that have given me their horror books have been good so far. So, thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. Yeah, I'd love to come on again in the future. I love the show. Love what you guys are doing.
Thanks, man.
As the masks come off, dude, hopefully we can get back out and about again. That'd be awesome. But either way, are you guys planning on doing any conventions in the future or anything?
Yeah, I know, Brandon. You're going to one actually pretty soon.
Yeah, next weekend I'm going. Well, this weekend I'm going down to Monster Mania. They're gonna have like an outdoor convention. I think it's only a few people, nothing crazy, but hopefully we can get back into doing everything like the normal ways, like having a big convention, everybody together. I think down in Texas they just had one, right? I've seen a lot of people. They're back in the hotel.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah.
So hopefully everything comes back down this way.
I'd love to meet up with you guys at one. Hopefully that will happen soon. But
yes,
yeah. But thanks, Josh, always for checking the books out. I'm glad you enjoyed them, and it's my pleasure to give a local infamous horror figure such as yourself some copies of my books.
Yeah. If I go to Dave's neighborhood, everybody would be peeking out the window and shit. But,
you smoking crack again?
Yeah, that's it. That's our crackhead. We know that. He was in the hospital that one time. We know him.
His pants are enormous.
I can't even. So tell us what you got coming up, because I know you have a lot of stuff. I follow you, and I also subscribe to your maggot mail. So feel free to pop anything that you got and tell us what you got coming up too.
Oh, cool, man. Thanks. Yeah, I got. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but I think from now, probably within the next couple weeks, I'll have my In the Hands of the Heathens is coming out, which is sort of it's sort of a supernatural thriller / slasher, and it's going to kind of be up to the reader to decide what they think it is. Should be a pretty fun book. I have a book that I've been working on for over 2 years, which is the one that's going to feature the Zach Dunn oil painting as the cover, and also 65 illustrations inside. And these are not like sketches. I mean, these are like detailed, beautiful illustrations with this dude, Stefan from Serbia, I've been working with for like years on it. And it's like my tribute to like scary stories to tell in the dark and that sort of thing. But if you did that for adults in an extreme sort of way. And it's a 7x10 book. So that one's actually like big. It's going to be more like an art book mixed with, it'll be good for people with like short attention span too, because the stories aren't enormously long. Like there's a few beefy ones in there, but it's a lot of like quick stuff. And I feel like it's even something that hopefully people could read together and just kind of have fun with. Nice. And then lastly, I have a book coming out called Beyond Reform, which is my first collaborative effort. I reached out to John Athan, who's also another pretty prominent independent author, and another fellow from the UK named Jasper Bark. And we have a 6-story collection. Each story will feature at least one character that is beyond reform and just incredibly fucked up. And how those stories play out, you'll have to see, I guess. But that's pretty much it. I'm also in a collection with Matt Shaw coming up, which is pretty cool because he's a big name in extreme horror. So I am excited about that. And I'll be in Splatterpunk magazine for the next issue, which comes out of the UK. My story, The Hunger.
Very cool.
Damn, dude.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Plus you're doing what? 2 podcasts now, right?
Yeah, I do the Written and Read podcast. So if any of your listeners want reading suggestions from unknown horror authors or relatively less known horror authors, we do that. And then we also, it's basically like the whole podcast is like an arc. It shows you how to self-publish a book, and we go through it step by step. And as you listen to the episodes, you'll kind of accumulate that knowledge, and you'll be publishing before you know it, if you desire. That's the Written and Read podcast. And then I do Evil Examined, of course, which is like crime, UFOs, fucking ghosts, anything, we love it all on there.
Fucking ghosts.
Thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks for coming on before. We did a Book of the Week segment with I think it was the Iceman, and I appreciate that. Thanks again for the books, man. Wicked cool that you were so nice you literally dropped them off on my porch during the COVID pandemic. So that was pretty awesome too. So greatly appreciated, man. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks, of course, Josh, for initiating it, and Dave and Brennan for having me. Keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing big things, and I love it. And I try to share it with everybody that I can, dude. So thanks for having me, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Thad Beaumont thought he didn't need George Stark anymore.
The American way of death.
That's it.
He served his purpose. Time to lay him to rest. But George is not about to go quietly.
We're here to question you in connection with a capital crime.
Evidence says you did it.
George Stark has somehow come to life.
Based upon a book by Stephen King, comes George A. Romero's masterful vision of a nightmare come true.
Are you ready? Just waiting on you.
The Dark Half.
Hey, this is Joshua. You're listening to PBD Horror. Today we have the one and only Miss Dawn Shea, owner of D&T Publishing and writer extraordinaire. Dawn, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank y'all for having me.
So, Dawn, what inspired you to start writing, and how did you get into the horror genre?
I have actually been into horror my whole life. I remember watching Creep Show 2 with my daddy when I was like 5 years old, peeking around his back watching it. So, but I've always loved it. I've always been fascinated by it. And I actually started writing when I was probably early middle school, I would say probably 5th grade. And I actually got suspended in the 7th grade for writing horror stories that one of my teachers found. And she thought they were too graphic for somebody of my age to be writing. So I was suspended from school for 3 days for writing horror stories.
There you go.
So you'll be glad to know we just featured a story from Dave recently. His story from when he was in 3rd grade about a stranger who comes and breaks his arm. So
it's called The Beach House. Yeah. Definitely turned some heads when I was in 3rd grade. Dawn, what are some of your favorite horror books and horror authors?
It's going to sound cliche, I'm sure, but Pet Sematary by Stephen King is my favorite horror book. But of course, obviously, he influenced a lot of, my horror reading and writing, I suppose. And R.L. Stine, he was a big deal. Yeah. But I've found so many people in the last 15 years that I'd had no idea who Richard Lehman was. I had no idea, I knew who Clive Barker was because of Hellraiser, but I didn't know that he actually wrote books. I thought that he just did the movie. So I got into a lot of his stuff and Robert Mcmillan. And then, of course, I found a lot of indie authors in the last few years that have been really great that I enjoy reading all their things. So, it's kind of just a jumble of all kinds of different things.
So that brings me to D&T Publishing. Like, I think do you own it with your husband?
Yes. He is the T in D&T.
That's what I figured. I think it's Timothy, right? If I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, good. So how did you and Timothy actually decide to start a publishing company?
Well, back last year, we actually just had our 1-year anniversary. But I came up with this idea that I was going to write a short story book by myself, and I was going to write a story for every letter of the alphabet. And I was running it by a friend of mine, and he was like, "Why don't you get other authors to help you write the stories?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" I didn't know that was a thing. So it just kind of went from there. We started asking some authors if they were interested, and then I was like, "Well, what do I do with it after I have all the stories?" And they were like, "Just publish it." So that's how it started.
That's actually, I actually have that book right here. It's called the ABCs of Terror for anybody who is interested. I loved it. I loved the idea of like a different monster for every letter of the alphabet. Some of the stories were so cool. Some of the best monsters. The only thing I didn't like, the stories were too short. I was like, it left me really wanting more.
Yeah.
Josh, I was hoping that maybe you could read a few passages for us, please. No.
And I do want to say you kind of answered one of my other questions. You had the first one was the arachnid story, which I really liked. Do you have any plans of writing a full novel or novella in the future? Just you?
It's funny you should ask that. Yes, actually, I am working on my own piece. I'm not sure if it will form into a novella or a novel yet, but we'll see. We'll see how far I go with it. But yeah, definitely, it's coming.
So my next question was, how did you get all those authors on board with the ABCs of Terror 1 and 2?
Now, I actually I had messaged a few of the author friends that I had, and I was like, look, I'm doing this anthology, and this is my idea for it. Would you be interested? And 90% of them were like, yes, absolutely, I'm in. And then from there, it just kind of was like, well, I know somebody that might be interested. Do you want me to message them? So we kind of got a hodgepodge of different authors from that. But volume 2, several from volume 1 expressed interest in going on to the second volume. So we kept those. And then the other authors that we had, I had put a post up in a author group and just basically said, this is what we're doing. If you're interested in being a part of it, comment and I'll message you. And so that's how we got some of the other authors to fill the other spots, and it worked out well.
Yeah, I got to say you got a pretty good lineup, as well as the other book, After the Kool-Aid is Gone. Pretty diverse writers in there, so I was pretty impressed with with your collection there. Good job.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I also wanted to ask you. So I noticed you were in the Horror Authors Guild. I just wanted to know, has that helped your writing or your publishing company, and how did you get into it?
Yes, it has. They do a lot of things on their blog. If you have a new book coming out, or you have an open call or pre-order, anything like that, they will advertise it in their blog. They'll let you advertise in their Facebook group. I get on, they have a podcast called Wicked Little Things. I go on there pretty regular. I was on there twice last week. Yeah, it's really helped a lot. And Kat and DA, they're the ones that run the Horror Authors Guild. And they're both super nice people, and they'll help you any way they can. And if you go on their website, I think it's just horrorauthors.guild.com. But if you go on there, you can just sign up and they'll approve your membership.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool. I didn't know that you could do that. That's actually cool. So after the Kool-Aid's Gone, you did The Last Haircut. And that was one of the best stories in the book. There were quite a few good ones in this. Can you tell us about what made you write that?
Well, there was a news story. I'm sure you all saw it. That a particular politician got to go to the salon when other people weren't allowed to go, and it caused quite a stir. So it just kind of hit me the day I had heard it, and I was like, that would be a good horror story.
Yeah, I gotta say the hairdresser was good. It was good. I liked it. So that brings me to another question I had. Now I know D&T is really taken off now. Can you tell us who or if you have certain writers under contract at this point?
We do. We have Mark House. We're doing 2 of his novellas this year. We have Summer Faker. We're doing her trilogy. Uninvited Others. It was the first book, and it just came out last week. It's actually a re-release. She had self-published it the first time, but when she had contacted us about taking the other 2, she wanted us to go ahead and take the whole trilogy so she could keep them together. So we ended up doing that, and that's done really well. We have Josh Schlossberg. We're doing his novella Malinae. We have Ronald Kelly. We're doing his short story collection, The Web of Lost Sanguinaire and Other Arachnid Horrors. We have Daniel J. Volpe. We're doing a novella and a novel for him this year. We have Joshua Mcmillan. We're doing a novel for him. We have E.C. Hansen. We're doing a short story collection for him. Douglas Ford. We're doing a novel for him. And then we just signed Richard Beauchamp. We're doing his short story collection.
Damn, that is quite the list. I was not expecting all that. I was thinking you'd be like, yeah, we got somebody. Good for you. That's like,
it's very exciting. I did not ever expect I never expected this to be, I just thought we would put out our own anthologies and we would have some authors that were interested in writing for it, and that would just kind of be it. We'd do 2 or 3 a year, and that was it. But Joshua Mcmillan, he was actually the first one we signed, and he has the story in ABC's Volume 2. He had contacted me one day, and he was like, "Are you gonna plan on publishing other people's work?" And I said, "Well, I hadn't really thought about it." And he was like, "Well, I have a short story that I'm interested in expanding into a novella or novel." He said, "And I would like, for you to publish it if you're interested." And literally the next day, somebody else messaged me, "Are you taking submissions? I have something I want to send you." And then it just kind of snowballed. And then it's been wild, but I mean, it's exciting, but it's been quite interesting.
Now, where would somebody find those books when they do come out?
They will all be on Amazon. You can search their author name or D&T. It'll pull up under D&T or the regular name. But we're going to be upgrading our website in the next couple of months, and we will have a store on our website where you can purchase the books also.
Oh, cool. So you said Pet Sematary was your favorite book. How'd you like the film compared to the book? Because the film was revolutionary in our eyes. All 3 of us really liked it. So
yeah. Listen, the 1989 version is my favorite horror movie. I watch it at least every 2 or 3 months. It's not verbatim by the book by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pretty darn close. And I don't think that they could have got a better person than Fred Gwynne to play Judd. I mean, he's the end all be all. But now the new version did not like. I'll just say it. Y'all can send me hate mail if you want to.
What part of it would you say were you most disappointed with?
Oh, well, the whole thing. I did not like that they switched which child died. In case people seen it, I won't spoil too much. John Lithgow, I love him as an actor. I did not like him playing Judd. And then the ending was just like way out there for me. I did not like that at all.
All right. Yep. So all around, not a fan. Definitely hearing that.
Yeah. I never even watched it. I'm allergic to remakes, so that's how I roll. Any other influences other than Stephen King?
You have to be a really bad horror movie for me not to like it.
I have plenty.
Return of the Living Dead is one of my favorites. I just love that movie. Some people think it's stupid, but the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead, Tom Savini's is, I'm sorry, I love George Romero too, but Tom Savini's was just a touch better. I think that was a budget thing. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is one of my favorites.
That's a great movie.
I mean, I really just, there's so many that I like. We'd be here all night.
So what's next for you in D&T Publishing?
Our anthology, It's All Fun and Games Until Somebody Dies, actually comes out tomorrow. So, and it's like After the Kool-Aid's Gone, it's just a collection of stories about people dying in or from a game. So, and we have some really good stories for that. Next month we have Nana coming out by Mark Towles, and we D&T our actual anthologies. We won't have another one out till May, and that'll be ABCs of Terror Volume 3. Will come out in May.
Dawn, one last question for you.
Okay.
You're stranded on a desert island. You can only bring one book. Doesn't have to be horror, but please be horror. And you can bring, you have a, let's say you have a CD player and one album, one book, one album. What would you choose?
Okay. I'm taking Pet Sematary, and I'm taking, yeah.
Nailed it. Yes.
I'm going to have to go with Rumors by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, okay. All right. See, I thought you were going to go with some island vibes, but all right. Fleetwood Mac. I can respect that too. So the only wrong answer was anything Kid Rock or something like that. I would have been like, no.
Oh yeah. No.
So that concludes this interview. Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciated.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you, Dawn.
This is PBD Horror. This is Joshua.
This is Dave.
This is Brandon.
Have a good night. Thank you, Dawn. And I love your accent, by the way.
Thank you.
You been working out, bro?
Absolutely not.
I did put up the other day. Does that count?
No, I wasn't asking you, Josh. I talked to you too much.
I just kind of measured his butt. You can edit that out.
We lied. There's no editing.
I knew it.
Ooh, we're trying to film over here.
It's too bad he just missed your story about your giant testes.
Right, Josh? Can you just speak into like a recorder for 3 hours and then just be like the fountain of mayhem?
You're gangs, and I'm like, yeah, they actually fought each other.
Breakdance fighting.
Yeah,
the good old days of gunplay and knives.
Whatever happens is up to you, but don't let your time run out.
I do.
Game over.